Hey everybody, this video is brought to you by the good folks over at Armor Cat, makers of quality cat trees for over 20 years. Thanks, Armor Cat. Food that's not good for you. If you're a cat, you should eat the things that you're supposed to eat, but not the things that will kill you. Okay. Hey everybody, Jackson Galaxy, your cat daddy, and today we're talking about food. Now, cat food is a big, wide-ranging topic, and I just won't even dive into all of it today. What I will concentrate on is the food that is not good for cats. And that, again, I mean, nothing is simple. What is simple is this. Cats are obligate carnivores. Cats have evolved eating a diet of prey, meat, bones, muscle, fat, but as they've evolved, they're not the cats they were even 100 years ago. They are eating cat food. We feed them. Cats have turned from predator mostly into scavenger, and that's the truth. Being obligate carnivores, evolving from a very, very specific type of nutrition, has made the rest of their digestive system down to their blood cells kind of fragile. Now we're going to break it down today into the things that are absolute no-nos and the things that are no-nos when eaten in excess. So let's get right down to it and start with the list of foods that are absolute, what are you crazy, don't feed this to your cats. And number one would be alcohol. Now, come on. Why would you invite your cat to the table for a little, nightcap? Basically, if you have alcohol around the house, do make sure it's under lock and key. Treat your cats as if they were children. The second thing that is just straight up toxic to cats is caffeine. So that means coffee and tea, energy drinks. I mean, what? Your cat should be nowhere near the Red Bull, guys. That feels obvious, right? What is not so obvious is the next thing on the list, which is chocolate. Chocolate, of course, is a stimulant. Chocolate also releases endorphins. Falls into the same category as caffeine. Stimulants are a no-go for cats. But here's another ingredient in chocolate that is just not good for cats, and that is xylitol. Xylitol is used as an artificial sweetener, something that's used in place of sugar. Xylitol winds up in a lot of places you would not imagine it to show up, and in a lot of times, chocolate is one of those things. And should I even mention chewing gum? Should your cats be anywhere near the bubble gum? Another absolute no-no for cats is onion or garlic. Again, we're talking about kidneys and livers and even blood cells that are very precariously balanced when it comes to cats, and onions and garlic, those will just throw them right off. So just make sure you're not giving your cats some of your garlic French fries. Now here's one that you might not have thought of when it comes to things that are not good for cats, and that is most baked goods, including bread. Why? Well, let's start with baking soda, baking powder. Those things are just not good for cats. Okay, so we got that one out of the way. It's also yeast. Yeast, number one, is that thing that makes bread rise. So in the digestive system of a cat, it also expands, and that is just not good for things like blood circulation. Now here's one that goes against all of the sort of stereotypes that we've all grown up with when it comes to cats. The cat with the saucer of milk, the cat eating ice cream or whipped cream or any of those creams, you know where I'm going. Cats are actually completely lactose intolerant. Now, this is most cats. The vast majority of cats are lactose intolerant. So milk and cheese, cream, all of those things that you would go, wait a minute, I thought cats were supposed to have this. No, 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 no. And the worst case scenario with that old sort of trope about cats is that it's kittens with little saucers of milk. Kittens with lactose? Absolutely not. Basically, when it comes to milk, it should be their mother's milk. If not that, there are milk replacers for kittens, but never straight up milk. Now, one that falls into the category of not so sure, but let's play it safe, are grapes and raisins. We know that grapes and raisins are toxic to most dogs. In this case, because we know that cats' digestive system is much less tolerant to things outside of their normal bioappropriate diet than dogs, we figure we might as well play it safe and just not recommend raisins and grapes to cats. Another thing that is just not good for cats, nutmeg. Nutmeg is tied to a very specific type of toxicity, but when you think about it, this is coming down to excessive amounts. Excessive amounts of any kind of spice, including salt, is just not good for cats. Again, we gotta just bear in mind the very narrow range of things that cats have evolved eating, and that is meat. Meat, nothing but meat, and what would be in the meat's gut, which most of the time are greens and that kind of thing. And that's what makes for a system that is not resilient when it comes to other types of food. So let's bear that in mind. The next category of foods are the ones that are just about if you eat excessive amounts, then it becomes toxic. In small amounts, not toxic. A prime example of that is avocado. The flesh of avocado. We're not talking about the bark or the skin, any of that, because that is toxic straight up. But the meat of the avocado in small doses is actually very good for everybody. But once you get into higher amounts, giving cats a big chunk of avocado, then you're risking toxicity. Another thing to look out for, and again, this is the excessive part, is actually fat. And that you could be saying to yourself, well, Jackson, you're saying that cats are obligate carnivores, and part of that equation is eating fat. Sure, the amount of fat that you find on a mouse, the amount of fat that you find on a bird, a small bird, but that doesn't mean the amount of fat that you would find on a side of beef. So when you are feeding table scraps and you just carve off the fat and throw it on the floor for the cat, that level of excessive fat can actually cause pancreatitis in cats. Just not good for them. Another thing that is just not good in excessive amounts for cats is tuna. It is widely known that virtually 100% of farm tuna in the US food supply has trace amounts of mercury. Now that means that humans can deal with it. Cats cannot, especially in large amounts. Now, does this mean that every now and again you can't give your cats a tuna treat? No, it doesn't. But it means that you can't just feed your cats tuna and expect them to be okay. The same thing goes for raw fish. Whereas with tuna, we're dealing with mercury. With raw fish, there could be mercury traces, but it's also thiamine that is a problem in terms of cats getting too much of it. Again, this is all about moderation. Excessive amounts of these things are going to cause problems in cats. In little amounts, probably not so much. The bottom line is there are many things, including over 450 types of plants that cats can be susceptible to. And susceptible is the key word, because in some cases, like what I've outlined, absolute no-nos. Some other things, like I've mentioned avocado or fat, those things are not so much, moderation. And in small doses can be good for cats. Being obligate carnivore means that what they're supposed to eat, they can eat, but what they're not supposed to eat will take them down. So we really have to be conscious at all times. One last note I want to make here is that there has been much said over the past couple of years that cats should not eat raw meat, that undercooked meat is bad for cats. If you think about it, that is patently ridiculous. because again, we're talking about an animal that is definitely not evolved away from their ancestors in a full way. They're still barely domesticated animals. So did that cat walk around with like a little portable hibachi and cook their food? No, of course not. Cats are still specifically evolved to eat raw meat, and the idea that they have evolved away from that ancestor in such a complete way that all of their food needs to be cooked, in my opinion anyway, is ridiculous. Not to mention the fact that when you cook food, especially commercially made cat food, and especially dry food, to a certain point where it needs to become a dry food, you are literally robbing it of everything that makes it meat that cats need. We'll have other videos all about the fallacies of raw meat and what cats should eat, etc. That's a whole other ball of wax, or like a ball of meat. Ew, that's so gross, a ball of meat. Ew. But anyway, so that's it, folks. This is a list that is by no means exhaustive, but I think these are the main sticking points when it comes to a cat's diet. What is toxic to them and what is acceptable. There's a lot of in between. I'm gonna hear from a lot of you guys who are like, hey, wait a minute, my cat eats cantaloupe by the truckload. Is that okay? Well, not today, guys, not today. That's for another day. But keep those comments coming. I wanna see what you have to say about this topic, because I am sure you have a lot to say about this topic. Also, let me know what else you'd like to hear the Cat Daddy talk about, because you know me, I'll talk about anything under the cat sun. Don't forget to share this with your cat-loving friends. Don't forget to subscribe to this here channel, because you never know what's gonna come out of my mouth. Food, food, food that cats should eat. Food, food, food that will make them sick. See? You never know. Light, love, and mojo to you.